in a very topical dialogue. Security, economic, and political challenges. Your Excellencies and Mali are worrisome reminders of the fragile nature of democratic governance in most. But the worries should not only be about military interventions. We should also be concerned about the protests in Kenya and the recent hunger protest close to the house. Of government without necessarily calling or seeking Africa's emerging economic, political, and security landscape is central to the attainment of our continent's socio-economic and developmental goals. Yes, the question is, are we ready? But we can't of these very terrible challenges that now face us as a continent. Today, this morning in this hall, we are privileged to have with us His Excellency of Republic of Ghana as the keynote speaker at this opening plenary. Please, a round of applause for His Excellency. His Excellency has had real hands-on experience in facing these concerns and addressing them using African solutions for African problems. His Excellency had before emerging as President of the Republic of Ghana in 2012, served as the country's Vice President. His Excellency was a parliamentarian in the Ghanaian legislature. He is also a farmer and is reputed as a tech enthusiast. And he has strong interest in environmental affairs. His Excellency is also an avid reader and writer. So just so you know that the Conference Planning Committee carefully chose him as the keynote speaker at this plenary. His first book is a memoir called My First Coup d'etat, Memories from the Lost Decades of Africa. It was published in July 2012. In May 2013, His Excellency was reported to have stated that all of West Africa, all of West Africa, including Nigeria, is under the threat of Islamist militancy. In December 2016, His Excellency was part of the ECOWAS mediation team to resolve the post-election political impasse in the Gambia between the defeated incumbent, Yahya Jammeh, and declared winner, Adam Barrow. To chair this occasion is a Fayemi, CON, two-time governor of Ekiti State. So, please, a round of applause for His Excellency. So, Ekiti State in Nigeria is referred to as a fountain of knowledge. Literally, that some states might boast of oil and gas and everything, or mineral resources. What Ekiti State boasts of is that literally every household has a professor. So for you to see a doctor who has served as a two-term governor in that state of professors, you should know the stuff that he is made of. So please, another round of applause for His Excellency, Dr. Kayode Fayemi. We will also be having strategic interventions from Africa's richest individual and the most prominent private investor in African economy, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, GCON, President Aliko Dangote Group, ably represented by the Vice President of Dangote Industries Limited, Mr. Olakule Alake. Please, you're welcome, sir. As the NBA president rightly mentioned, there is no way that we can do any of this without creating the foundation of law. And we are again privileged to have one of us, an erudite lawyer who also happens to be the Chief Law Officer of the Federation, Prince Lateef Olasukomi Fagbemi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, on this panel. Like I said, in all of this, the bulk mostly stops on the table of the government, which is expected to be responsible and be responsive, so that if the people are ready, the government, as a matter of fact, must be ready. To this end, we are also privileged to have with us Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. It's a prophecy, sir. CON, Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, and a former governor of Kebbi State, a brilliant visionary and economist who will be sharing the perspective of government in all of this with us. In all, gentlemen, please get ready for a very thrilling dialogue. Please, a round of applause for ourselves. Without further ado, I will yield the microphone to the session chair, His Excellency, the former governor of Ekiti State, to coordinate this very wonderful session. Your Excellency, sir.
Good morning, Mr. President of the Nigerian Bar Association. We're here at your instance, so take the protocol from you. His Excellency, the former President of the Republic of Ghana. I heard the MC say Federal Republic of Ghana. Ghana is not a federal republic. Republic of Ghana, and the candidate, he didn't add that, the candidate of the National Democratic Congress in the forthcoming December 2024 election, John Dramani Mahama. I should know that. I'm half Ghanaian. His Excellency, the former governor of Kebbi State and Honorable Minister of Budget and National Planning, the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation, Prince Lateef Fagbemi, the Vice President of the Dangote Group, Mr. Olakunle Alake, executive members of the Nigerian Bar Association, distinguished leaders of the bar, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It really gives me great honor to be here to chair this particularly important session at this year's Bar Association Annual Conference. The topic is not only important, the speaker is even more important because he has played critical roles at critical moments of transition, not just in his own country, but also as chair of the Economic Community of West African States at that particular moment when President Yahya Jammeh refused to honor the result of the election in his country. It was President Mahama, our own President Buhari, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and I believe President Macky Sall of Senegal that went into the Gambia and managed to convince their colleague at the time to democratic process and let the winner of the election take over the reins of power. And conceded to that honored advice, and it could have been different if he had refused to, as we have seen recently, diplomatically at first, and then with some force of threat, eventually in developments in Guinea, in Nigeria, and in Burkina Faso. And of course, our continent has been ravaged over the last that in talking about these coup d'etats, we should not only be talking about military coup d'etats alone. We should also be talking about constitutional coups. Who have chosen to either amend the constitutions and extend term limits in their own countries. President Mahama has seen it all. He's been involved both as a leader in Ghana, the high-level dialogue forum, Republic of Ethiopia, and he has been popularly elected in 2013 and exited in 2017. Born 63 years ago to a political family, Damango in rural community in northern region of President John Mahama made it first president of Ghana to serve in all levels of political office. Member of Parliament for Bole Bomboy constituency, Deputy Minister for the President of the Republic of Ghana. Nation of the study of history, communication and social psychology. For his bachelor's and postgraduate degrees at the university. And this has had a profound person he is today. Ghana under President Mahama, including education, health, ports and oil and gas, ICT, and many more. Those who have passed through Ghana lately, to President Mahama who constructed it. His investment in the socio-economic infrastructure field. President Mahama also believes in investing in people and in his desire to ensure social equity. And this was reflected in his promotion of girls' and women's interests at all levels. Indeed, it was during his administration that Ghana attained gender parity in basic education. He also ensured the appointment of many women to high positions in his administration. And in his last presidential bid, selected an accomplished woman as his vice presidential candidate, the first by a major political party in the country. And I believe the same woman, vice presidential candidate in this forthcoming election. Of course, President Mahama is an avid reader, an author, and a historian. He's written many things, but the one thing that I would urge all of us here to read, Google, look for it on Amazon, or anyway, it's a widely known book, My First Coup d'etat, and other stories from the last decades of Africa. It's interesting that we're talking about coup d'etat today. So you couldn't have heard it from a better person who was overthrown, technically, because he was just 7 years old then, but he was overthrown when his father lost his job after the 1966 coup against President Kwame Nkrumah. So you can imagine what that did to him and his family, the disruption that caused. And in the course of that disruption, President Mahama lived in Nigeria, so he knows Nigeria as much as any one of us could claim to here. And apart from his love and being a farmer himself, he's also very keen in agriculture. As I said, he's a former chairperson of the Economic Community of West African, the first co-chair of the United Nations Advocacy Group on the Sustainable Development, and is currently the chairperson of the TANA Forum, a high-level forum on security. And in recognition of his sterling contributions on the African continent and the globe as a leader and model, President Mahama has been conferred with a number of honorary doctoral degrees from distinguished universities. I can tell you that the first university that gave him an honorary degree was the Ekiti State University. And he was given an honorary degree, honoris causa in public administration. Afterwards, the Faculty of Management Sciences was also named after him. at that university. Since then, Ilorin University, Igbenedion University, the University of Aberdeen in Scotland, and the Lyon Business School have followed suit by giving him honorary doctorate degree. It is a pleasure and indeed a privilege for me to invite a man that I call my brother and my friend, and who have known through his struggles to become a distinguished figure in African politics for his resilience, for his tenacity, for his compassion, for his competence, for his character. I urge you to join me in welcoming President John Dramani Mahama to give his keynote address. Thank you.
Hello? Thank you very much. Please resume your seats. Thank you. The chairperson, President of the Nigerian Bar Association, the Honorable Attorney General, members of the Nigerian Bar here present, and because of the huge galaxy of distinguished citizens here, let me say, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me clear a few things first. One, about my Nigerian antecedents. My stepmother is Nigerian, who raised me, and she comes from Ofa-Nkwara State. And so, what Kayode was explaining was that at a point in time when there had been a coup in Ghana, my father lived in exile here in Nigeria, and I had to come and stay with my stepmother for many years in Ofa. So I know Ofa quite well. And I consider that my hometown here in Nigeria. And the Olofa of Ofa was very gracious to grant me a chieftaincy title, and so of Ofa Kingdom. And he told a story about our intervention in Gambia when there had been an election, and we had a few issues getting the then head of state, Yahya Jammeh, to accept the results of the election. There was a funny incident. We had gone to intervene with Salif Johnson, Macky Sall, President Jonathan was part of it at the time, and Ibn Chambers. And we met the president, and we opposition leader who had won the election, and he talked about how he had been placed under house arrest. And so when we met the president, we tried to convince him to release him from house. National community, if anything touches the skin of this man, you say, I'm protecting him for his own safety. And I said, but Mr. President, I thought that any danger to him will come from outside his house, not from inside. He says, yes, why? I said, but the guns that are protecting him are pointing at the house instead of away from the house. And happily, eventually, we got democracy reinstated in the Gambia. Let me warn you too, there's no quotation from Christopher Sapara Williams in this speech. I heard so many quotes from him. He must have been such a great legal luminary. It is with profound gratitude and a deep sense of responsibility that I stand before you today as a special guest at this annual General Conference of the Nigerian Bar Association. Your invitation to address this distinguished gathering is not just an honor for me, but a recognition of the crucial role the legal profession plays in shaping the future of our beloved continent. Your invitation is also historic. In my nearly 30 years of public service, this is the first time I've been invited to a bar conference. I was genuinely surprised when I received your invitation. Thank you, Nigerian Bar Association. I was genuinely surprised when I received your invitation, as I had were exclusive events for only members of the legal profession. I thoroughly enjoyed Speaker Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, a distinguished daughter of Africa, truly did justice to asked to speak for a few minutes on the topic, the future of Africa, security, economic, and political challenges. And as a student of history, I like to begin my lecture with some historical context. Struggle for independence in Africa. Soldiers returning from war, to do with them, and African students who had become radicalized became catalysts for the independent movements, particularly in my country, Ghana. By 1957, Ghana emerged as the first country south of the Sahara to gain independence, for several other African countries, including Nigeria, to follow suit. Emerging from colonial rule was an exhilarating experience, and it was a hopeful time for Africans who looked forward to a future of building great nations by autocratic rule. Human rights were routinely violated. Expression and an independent media were aspirations that seemed reserved for future democracies and oppressive military regimes. The few attempts to return to civilian rule were short-lived, and the military always quickly returned to power. The 1990s signaled a new dawn for Africa. One by one, African countries began returning to constitutional democracy. It was widely believed that democracy would not only protect the rights and freedoms of the people, but it would also unleash their creative potential to build prosperous lives. Once again, there was hope. At one point, 6 of the world's fastest growing economies in a prosperous future for the continent. Fast forward more than, and Africa finds itself at a critical juncture. The neo-colonial stranglehold continues to choke infrastructure and the emergence of an affluent middle class. Africa remains largely an exporter of raw materials and a consumer of finished goods. Per capita incomes remain low compared to many countries with which Africa was on a par at the time of independence. Time is running out to make the crucial decisions that will once again inspire hope in the future of our democratic governance. Let me share a few examples from my own country, Ghana. According to the latest Afrobarometer survey, an overwhelming 87% of Ghanaians believe the country is heading in the wrong direction. Additionally, 85% of Ghanaians rate the country's economy as bad, while 72% describe their personal living conditions from fairly bad to bad. Now, this is where it gets interesting. About 55% of Ghanaians say they have lost trust in our parliament. 53% have lost trust in the presidency. Moreover, 73% believe that government is not doing enough to fight corruption. And 64% feel that government is failing to improve the economy. Another revealing statistic is that 22% of Ghanaians agree that the country will be better off under military rule. These figures indicate a significant decline in trust in democratic governance in Ghana, which should serve as a wake-up call for all of us. While I'm not certain of the most recent statistics for Nigeria, given that our two countries are often called Siamese twins from the same mother, and we're always competing over football and jollof, our countries are so similar that I believe that the sentiments expressed in Ghana might be very similar to the sentiments that you have here. The African continent today is grappling with a range of complex issues that threaten to derail our progress. Recent geopolitical tensions have led to a cascade of economic challenges, including rising food and energy prices. At the same time, the looming threat of climate change casts a shadow over agricultural productivity and energy security. These challenges are further exacerbated by ongoing political instability, as seen in the recent coup d'etats in Burkina Faso, Guinea, Niger, and Mali. And these are clear reminders of the fragility of democratic governance in parts of our country. Our young people who are emerging from school are better educated than ever, and they have access to more information thanks to the digital age. However, many millennials, Gen Zs, and generations feel that African democracies are not working for them. It is crucial that we as leaders understand that challenges are not isolated. They are symptoms of deeper systematic issues rooted in the power dynamics of the contemporary international system. By Western democracies has created a paradigm of intense competition among key state actors, often perpetuating external dependencies and manipulations that disproportionately impact our continent. The paradox of our time is that some of the largest holders of natural and human resources, including many African countries like yours and mine, find themselves vulnerable and dependent in the era of globalization. The accompanying strictures and institutions of these power dynamics ensure that decision-making processes like the United Nations are dominated by a select few, often of the global south. Recent developments on the international stage underscore the instability and insecurity pervading the global system. These events point to institutional failures and the inability of powerful interests to act decisively when it matters most. The ripple effects of these global crises are felt acutely in Africa, intensifying existing challenges and giving the recent wave of political insurrections and coups in Africa, particularly in the Sahel region, and marginalization. The state fragility and within the ECOWAS sub-region, but also expose the limitation of current diplomats of Africa. What are the challenges that threaten Africa's future? And what role do you in our African economies? Challenges that have been starkly highlighted by vulnerabilities that long existed beneath the surface of our economic. Our continent's heavy reliance on exporting commodities and importing essential goods of colonial economic structures that we have yet to fully dismantle and economic sovereignty is. Firstly, the monoproduct nature of many African economies, which account for a major portion of its export earnings, is a vulnerability. Highly susceptible to global oil price fluctuations, as we have seen all too clearly in recent years. It remains largely underdeveloped and underutilized within reserves and stifles the growth of domestic agri-business. Financing, food safety standards often lag behind global best practices, discouraging investment and innovation. And again, our manufacturing base is severely underdeveloped. The premature deindustrialization of Africa, driven by poorly designed structural adjustment programs and inequitable global trade practices, has resulted in our exclusion. Global manufacturing and value added remains below 2%. Our role as exporters of raw materials. Fourthly, the informal sector, which accounts for a substantial portion of employment outside the formal legal and regulatory frameworks. stability and growth, but also deprives government of the much-needed tax revenue and also workers of essential legal protection. It goes without saying, systems remain undeveloped and are often inaccessible to the lack of robust credit reporting systems, limited access to long-term capital, and high interest rates stifle entrepreneurship. As legal professionals, you have a crucial role to play in addressing these structural challenges, but to actively shape the legal frameworks that will support the diversification and strengthening of our economies. Is not merely an economic agreement. It is the embodiment of the Pan-African vision championed by leaders like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. The Continental Free Trade Area reflects this spirit, ushering in a new era of economic integration and opportunity that transcends the arbitrary borders imposed by colonial. It stands as a testament to our collective determination to shape our own economic destiny. It's largely unrealized due to ongoing structural to the African Continental Free Trade Area. The lingering effects of colonial exploitation, the burden of global commodity markets continue to challenge, yet it is precisely in facing these challenges that you must step forward. And yesterday, our sister Ngozi asked, are you ready? The African Continental Free Trade Area offers an unprecedented opportunity to reshape the economic landscape of ensuring that this framework not only promotes trade, but also protects the rights of our workers and ensuring that they align with international labor standards and human rights conventions. It's not just an economic necessity, but a realization of the Pan-African dream. It is your duty as legal persons to advocate for and implement legal mechanisms that enable free movement of our people and goods across our borders, while addressing the legitimate security concerns associated with that. Tirelessly to harmonize our immigration laws, recognize professional qualifications across our member states, and establish robust systems for the mutual recognition of judgments and arbitral awards. For your profession, the implementation of the African Continental Area opens up new opportunities and responsibilities. You must proactively adapt your legal education and practice to meet the needs of an integrated African market. This involves developing expertise in international trade law, cross-border disputes, and comparative African. It also means establishing Pan-African law firms and legal networks that are capable of serving clients in various countries across the continent, and thereby fostering a truly African legal ecosystem. Moreover, you must lead in developing a body of African commercial law that reflects our values and our realities. And this includes drafting model laws for e-commerce, intellectual property protection, and competition. And all these must be tailored to our own African context. You should also advocate for the creation of an African commercial court to resolve disputes arising from the African Continental Free Trade Area and ensuring that African jurisprudence plays a central role in interpreting and applying agreements. As we navigate this new landscape, we must remain vigilant in addressing potential challenges. The benefits of economic integration should not be limited to large corporations or only the political elite. We must develop and enforce competition laws that prevent monopolistic practices and ensure that small and medium enterprises can also thrive in this expanded market. Additionally, environmental protection must be an integral part of our trade policies, ensuring that our pursuit of prosperity of our natural heritage. In the spirit of Nkrumah's vision, let us view the African Continental Free Trade Area not as an end in itself, but as a stepping stone towards greater political and economic unity. As legal New Africa, crafting laws and institutions that bring our we should also work to revive and modernize the concept of African customary law, creating a distinct African legal identity that honors our diverse traditions while addressing the needs of a modern, integrated economy. But so too is your capacity to meet it. Let us take inspiration from the words of another great Pan-Africanist, Julius Nyerere, who said, "Without unity, there is no future for Africa." As we move forward with the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, let us do so with an unwavering commitment to unity, justice, and prosperity, on which the structure of African economic integration, ensuring that the dreams of our founding fathers are not just aspirations. Ladies and gentlemen, climate change poses an existential threat to our agricultural sector and our energy security. As guardians of the law, you must take the lead in developing and implementing agricultural practice and incentivize investments in renewable energy. You must draft legislation that balances economic development with environmental sustainability, ensuring that the Africa of tomorrow is not constructed at the expense of our natural heritage. The specter of political instability continues to cast a dark shadow over our continent. The recent wave of coup d'etats in West Africa is still a stark reminder of the fragility of our democracies. Even more concerning is the rise of people with the democratic process. As legal professionals, you have a solemn duty to strengthen the pillars of democracy, the rule of law, the separation of powers, and the protection of fundamental human rights. Our electoral processes and accountability mechanisms that enhance the credibility of our democratic institutions and restore trust in the social contract between the governed and their leaders. And yesterday, our sister spoke a lot about the social contract. Distinguished members of the Nigerian Bar, let us now turn our attention to a matter of paramount importance: the youth of Africa. This demographic represents both our greatest challenge and our most promising asset. A quality, urgent attention, and coordinated action. The employment across our continent are not just statistics to be discussed in academic discourse or political rhetoric. They are a ticking time bomb of social unrest. The role extends beyond the courtroom and the board. We must become architects of a future that fully harnesses the boundless potential. The current educational system, a remnant of our colonial past, is utterly seize the opportunities of the modern world. You must push for a comprehensive curriculum overhaul that emphasizes digital literacy and practical, technical, and vocational skills. As legal education initiatives that bridge the gap between academic theory and professional practice. establishing a robust legal framework that fosters entrepreneurship amongst our youth. Business registration processes, provides tax incentives for young entrepreneurs, and improves access. In this context, I propose the creation of a youth entrepreneurship legal clinic. This initiative would offer business formation and business operations. By lowering legal barriers to entry, we can unleash a surge of innovation and job creation driven by young people. Furthermore, we must ensure that our labor laws evolve to protect the rights and interests of young workers in an increasingly dynamic and digital economy. The rise of the gigabit economy and remote work presents both opportunities and challenges for our youth. You should advocate for legislation that provides social protection for freelancers, ensure fair competition, fair compensation, and prevention of this class of people. Thank you. This may involve pushing for amendment to all categories of workers. The brain drain that depletes our continent of its brightest minds. While we cannot halt the forces of, and this means advocating for policies that improve the ease of doing business, infrastructure, and foster a more meritocratic society. Transparency and accountability in governance, thereby cultivating an environment where talent. We must recognize that youth issues intersect with other social challenges. For instance, climate change disproportionately impacts our youth who will bear the brunt of our environmental decisions. You should therefore promote environmental laws and advocate for sustainable development practices, a livable future for generations yet to come. Moreover, it's essential to address the gender disparities that persist in youth employment and entrepreneurship. Young women face unique barriers to entering and succeeding in the workforce. You must champion policies that promote gender equality in education, in employment, and you must combat discrimination and support young women entrepreneurs. Ladies and gentlemen, the task before us is formidable, but it's not insurmountable. By harnessing the innovative spirit of our youth, demographic challenge into a demographic dividend. I urge you to commit yourselves to this cause with the same zeal and dedication that you bring to your legal practice. Member of the Nigerian Bar to take up this challenge. Establish a youth empowerment organization tasked with developing concrete policy proposals and initiatives to tackle youth unemployment and underemployment. Engage with legislators for a national youth empowerment strategy that transcends political divides and electoral cycles. Unquote. It is your duty to critically examine and challenge the status quo. Every young person can realize their full potential. The future of our continent depends on our ability to youth into the driving force for progress and prosperity. By empowering our youth, we secure not just their future, but the future of our. Furthermore, we must recognize that the legal profession itself must evolve to meet the needs of a changing world. Our legal education produce lawyers who are not only technically proficient, but also deeply committed to social responsibility. A certain number of hours to providing free legal services. We must also strengthen our legal aid systems. As we move forward in rebuilding Africa, let us be guided by the rural communities and persons with disability. The recent leadership, in conclusion, and there's not going to be finally and lastly, this is in conclusion. Let us leave this conference with words, but with a renewed commitment to action. Let us pledge to use our legal expertise. The future of Africa rests in our hands. Let us move forward with determination. Let me say, I wrote this, I didn't know you had changed your national anthem. Back to the other one. Words of your national anthem, and I quote, "The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain." And so I sat here yesterday, and so I leaned over and I said, but this is not the Nigerian. It says, oh, we changed it back to the original recently. So sorry, I said your national anthem, that the Africa of tomorrow realizes the potential of its people and its resources. I thank you all very much for your attention. Best for the rest of this conference. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Yes, we've changed the national anthem, but in vain. Thank you, sir. Short on time. We have just under 30 minutes, but we've also brought to this particular session the wisdom of our chieftains. Senator Atiku Bagudu, in his previous life, was a university professor and then a Citibank executive before he became a senator, minister, what we call GSM in politics. Survey by the Afrobarometer says 60% of Africans under 55 actually are not averse to coup d'etat. That's a very, very sobering reflection. 60% of people who are under 55 don't mind coup d'etat, the arrival of the Messiah. And anything after 1 year in office, the reality begins to dawn. That Mr. President has highlighted, then we will not be addressed. So without much further ado, I'm going to ask Governor Bagudu and also Mr. Kunle Alake, representing industry, the reflections on how to take these issues and probably add their own issues in less than 10 minutes, 5 minutes. And then, if there's still chance, we'll create the opportunity for 1 or 2 questions. Thank you very much, Governor Bagudu. You can either sit, it's up to you.
Senate President of the Federal Republic, Senator Godswill Akpabio, sir, and other former President of Ghana, John Mahama, and my colleague, the Attorney General of the Federation, Chairman ICPC, the Chairman of the occasion, my brother, John Kayode Fayemi, former Governor of Ekiti State. Thank you, former EA, particularly under the leadership, foresight to venture into areas which may not be seen to be of legal nature, but the addiction of MBA. But I think it's worth it because our brightest minds are gathered here of beginning a discourse on the security and economic challenges of our continent, the outcome of all other discourses. So congratulations, YC Maker. Mr. President, as Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu on numerous occasions as an opportunity, not a problem. And Africa with its large landmass, 3 million square kilometers, compared to China, or India, that is almost 1/10, but all sharing India 1.45, and China, of China at 18 trillion plus, that of similar to that of Africa combined, illustrates when we come to the annual budgets of the countries, it even illustrates the starker challenge. China's annual budget is over $4 trillion. This is about 700 billion, 730 billion. This is the central challenge. I dare to say it requires an irreducible minimum of resources in Africa, in the sense that the power is not because of lack of trying, but is evident in some segment of our society, of countries, the African Union. What choices must we make that are different? The historic challenges. Some of the access to capital, unequal access, particularly in the northern part of the world, are able at a larger scale, at a cheaper cost, which most African countries' ingenuity of bringing this challenge here, because here are people who have domestic investments, and therefore greater than is currently available is a discourse that we must have, maybe is the most important discourse. Other factors, climate change, environmental degradation, the security challenge, are a manifestation of decades of underinvestment. Amply, and this have stabilized more domestic resources, like to do. Yes, we can cooperate and participate to be part of G20. We are mobilizing to be part of. But what can we do together? And again, that's where I know you want about time. Just like in Nigeria, our constitution, and I'm sorry, yes, I knew Ngozi was here and she was very in her, spoke about the social discontent and the necessity. Two of our constitution, which is fundamental objectives and directive principle, because the economic objectives are stated there, the political objectives, the social objectives, the environmental objectives, the educational objectives, about all those in authority should work towards the achievement of those social, whether it is sufficient or whether it is too much. And this is what laid the basis for our institution and our Agenda 2050 stated, so that we confront our reality. What does unpleasant that we believe will put our Africa needs? That is what African needs to cooperate together and continue to deliver. And that's where MBA is well.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Well, Mr. Lake, leader in the manufacturing, to hear your perspective on how to reverse the trend.
Good morning, Your Excellencies, the challenges. I think one thing that is very fundamental apparently is the private sector participation in the economic growth of any nation. I think the private sector is a very strong partner with the government. Employment is key. Anytime the government says we are creating 1 jobs, what they're essentially saying is that we are creating an environment for the private sector to. It's not the government that creates this job. They just create the environment. And from our perspective, creating wealth and growth of any nation demands representation. Nowadays is inclusion. So when you look at the entire country, is everybody represented? Is there able? There are policies that drive to the heart of what essentially the country needs. No. But are we able to create sufficient policies that today we don't speak about the quantity, we talk about the quality. We need to create jobs, and we do that as private sector. We employ people, we generate revenue, and government at the end of the day, as a partner to us, partners, I think we need to move away from that. If there is no gainful employment, we will have security issues. Advocate that as time goes ahead. So like I said about policies, the issue of policies are key. We are in 13 African countries. This is our home. We are Africans, and we believe very much in Africa. But we also know that we get the best in. I think when you talk about security challenges, economic growth, unemployment, we believe that government must take it very seriously, that their partner, which is the private sector, they undertake. At the end of the day, without employment, without resources, without wealth being created, government will have no tools to use to develop the nation. I want to stay on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lake. Well, I have to withdraw my original intention because we've really run out of time. And from what I understand from the organizers, they would like us to move straight to the next session. And I'm also aware that His Excellency, the former president, is really eager to move to his next assignment. Thank you.
There's a big round of applause for Your Excellency, the former governor and minister. Yes. Yes, I wanted to say.
How did I forget that? Honorable Attorney General, well, you will forgive me. You are my lawyer, so please, it's your turn, sir.
Client wanted to forget me. Your Excellency, the Senate President, you are most welcome. I crave your indulgence to leverage on existing protocol. I want to thank those who have spoken before me, and I want to say that my own job, falls within a very narrow compass. I'm not here to give another lecture, but I want to respond to one or two issues that keep recurring in our conversation on the question, are we ready? Yesterday, Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, after an exposition, came to a decision by asking questions. are we ready for social contract? And I want to say that for me, as the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice, that I am ready. And the state of readiness is by putting in place appropriate legal framework. Before now, the practice used to be that the National Judicial Council will conduct its own justice sector reform exercise. The Nigerian Bar Association would do its own. The Ministry of Justice would do its own. But this year, realizing the need for coordination, we said, let all of us come together. And I'm happy you honored us with your esteemed presence. Going forward, we have come to a decision as to what needs to be done in the justice sector. And yesterday, I also said or announced the establishment of a working group for the review of the laws of the Federation. It is very clear to me that what we simply need to do is to get our laws right. And I am referring to both the Constitution and the legal framework. So this is why I would say that I agree 100% with Dr. Okonjo-Iweala on what needs to be done in respect of social contract. But a brief remark before I resume my seat. I hope my eardrums are okay. I heard the chairman, His Excellency Dr. Fayemi, say, there was an exercise conducted to determine result was that 55% of some people, those who were interrogated, preferred coup. They say in Africa, what is the population in Nigeria? We don't need that one. Because much as I agree that during the process of submitting itself to any legislative role, but experience has shown that it's not always enduring. The one that is enduring is the one that we sat together to fashion out. I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready for the next stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice. Well, I don't want to reopen the debate, but that's not what the survey said. 60% of people are averse. Not that they prefer coup. They don't prefer coup, sir. They are not averse to coup. It means that they are not happy. Agree that things are not good enough. So we must improve on that so that we don't have coups.
Thank you, distinguished for our panelists. I don't think that applause is good enough. Thank you very much. May I now invite the President of the Nigerian Bar Association to invite to say a few words our special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr.
Thank you very much. Well, I should say a big thank you to our panelists. Again, the former president of Ghana, and perhaps speaking prophetically after December, Excellency as the president of Ghana. So we pray. We thank you for the sacrifice. I can assure His Excellency that the Nigerian Bar Association is a good ground. It's a fertile ground. When you sow on this ground, you will yield good harvest. And we know that as long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest will not cease. His Excellency has sown a seed of honor on this ground, and he shall reap honor unto himself. Those that agree with me say aye. The ayes have it. I thank Governor Fayemi. Thank you so much for bringing such a huge support to us. Thank you, Alake, for being a part of this. 3 days ago, I was at the factory, and I've come to witness the humongous investment that you have put in place. We thank you, we congratulate you, and we appreciate that effort. Actually, I described Dangote as a freedom economic fighter. He's a fighter for this economy, and we appreciate what you are doing. Thank you very much, our amiable, Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice. We'll always be thanking Mr. President for giving you to us, to the nation, but we were first to donate you to him, for him to donate you to the country. And we have no regrets that we did that. We appreciate your support. And I'm reserving this one, the best, for my own brother, Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, CON, former governor of Kebbi State, my own state, and also the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, my own brother, my brother. And I'm sure if you are me, please put your hands together. Thank you very much to 5 minutes, but it's all okay. What bubbles out of him is just knowledge, and he doesn't like withholding. Once you can open your ears to listen, very much, sir, for coming. Now, we are privileged to have the Senate President in our midst. Mr. President was supposed to be here with us yesterday, but he couldn't make it. But out of respect, he has decided that he will not miss this session. He made efforts to get here before time. And you remember the Lagos State Governor exports traffic out of Lagos. That was what, because we have not gone home and we haven't taken the traffic with us, we still have a lot of that traffic in Lagos, and that delayed the Senate President from arriving at the conference venue. Member, and even though I have 3 days to go as president, Mr. President, you know you are my member. And I have the singular honor and privilege to invite the Senate President, the uncommon leader of the Senate, to come and give us your goodwill remarks before we close this session. So, distinguished colleagues, the former president of Ghana has to leave to catch his flight. So, a group photograph now before the Senate President will deliver his good week remarks. Thank you very much.
And after his Hello, where are the, please bring the,
we had to clear the high table because I'm not delivering a few remarks, goodwill message. So in absentia, let me thank for finding time to be with us and for the very elucidating paper. Oh, I see I have a few panelists here, particularly my colleague, GSM, Governor, Senator, Minister, Atiku, Daga. Because I was a governor, I was also a senator, I was also a minority leader, and so now you can say GSM Daga SP, Senate President. Your ambassador in the government of the day. So, in a nutshell, let me recognize the former governor of Ekiti State, who just apologized to us now to address some of the disenchantments in the society. So I thank him for that, because school is not in the crowd. The incoming president of the bar, I think Afam, Masi, Afam, Osigwe. Am I right? SAN. That is the only title that you beat me. SAN. I may decide to confer. The number one of the Federation. Yes, okay, my brother, fight with me. Of the bar. I think the person that came close to the height of our current president was my own Egbo. Yeah, so through you, I recognize all the other. Let me recognize my senators. Adek Bomire, the chairman of matters in the Senate. And of course, distinguished Senator Kagashewu, distinguished Senator Karimi Senator. So a lot of my colleague senators who are here. And of course, my lords. And then to come down, I've recognized the Minister of Budget and National Planning. Down to recognizing us, my learned brothers and my learned sisters. So, my dear, more than the travels of the traffic that I went through. Some of the traffic I went when we are going back to our destinations. Yeah? Only to show the fact that the MBA is growing and growing strong. 64th Annual General Conference of our great. Not only was this body at the center of raising awareness, pray and celebrate Hello and a host of others. The Nigerian Bar Association boasts of in our past, we must not rest on our laurels. Instead, let that our strength lies not only in our numbers, we are a very formidable force for positive change in Africa, not Nigeria alone. This convocation stands as a symbol of our unwavering commitment to the arts as we embrace including Nigeria. Let us remember that we embody our theme and reshape our nation, become the rallying cry of the current president of our dear country, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President Yakubu Maikao, from West Africa, but to transform the entirety of our continent. To do this, for me, I entered politics with a dream of my own nation as lawyers, to rebuild my state and to assist I rebuilt Akwa Ibom State, as uncommon transformation. So those gathered here tonight, it could mark a pivotal moment, united in our mission for our dear country and dream of a future brimming with promise and opportunity that demands integrity, courage. Nation building is a shared responsibility, not solely the domain of government alone. I firmly believe that every lawyer possesses that potential. 87, 88, and all that. Some people should used to teach us that lawyers do not need to do well. But I recall when I used to be at Ojo Elegba, if I don't have money in my pocket, I see a colleague, I will say, do you have change? Because it is expected that the lawyer has. So as we contemplate, let us remember that within each challenge lies opportunity. We are at a crucial junction in our history, a time that demands bold action and resolute determination, but harness its wings, the wings of the storm, to ascend to the highest heights. As the chairman, our unwavering commitment to contributing to nation building, the agenda prioritizes laws that stimulate economic growth, enhance security, and promote social justice. We are diligently working hard with my dear colleagues toward the aspirations of all Nigerians. We believe strongly that there is no stain in our country that we cannot erase. Create jobs, improve living standards for our citizens, and bring about total security in the nation. We are focused on strengthening the security infrastructure to ensure that all Nigerians can live in peace and safety. So, distinguished learned colleagues, let this year's conference transcend the notion of a mere event. Let it become a movement, one that seeks to inspire, innovate, and ignite a passion for a paradigm shift across the entirety of our dear country, and even in West Africa. Let us collaborate to strengthen our legal institutions, promote the rule of law, ensure that justice is accessible to all. Let us be the voice of the voiceless, as stated by President Mahama, and advocates for the marginalized, and the defenders of democracy. Let us remember that in the pursuit of justice, silence equates complicity. I would like to express my profound gratitude to the outgoing president and his team for collaborating with the Nigerian parliament to create legislations that have impacted so far on the judiciary positively and the legal system in general. I look forward to a much more robust relationship between the National Assembly that I chair and the incoming Nigerian Bar Association executives, led by Mercy Afam-Osikwe, as we strive to enact laws that will help rebuild the future of Nigeria in line with the theme of this convocation. In conclusion, let us dedicate ourselves to a future where justice prevails, every citizen has the opportunity to flourish, and where our great nation stands proudly among the Committee of Nations in Africa. Let us remember that a nation's strength is measured by its commitment to justice for all. Our dedication to justice is the foundation upon which we will build a stronger, a more peaceful, and a much more united Nigeria. Before I close, I just want to say that I was very excited when I heard the need for you to set up a pro bono department in the Nigerian Bar Association. And this is a very welcome development for we politicians, because it will it will reduce the cost of litigation. Senior advocates of Nigeria will no longer even think of dollarizing the fees that they charge politicians. So I was excited. That is my takeaway. For my brother, former President Okocha, it means I can hire you in 2027, and then you will do the job properly. Am I right? So this is where I got very excited that I'm here when this history is being made. That SANs are now going to charge politicians nothing, and they will appear free for us, so that the cost of litigation will be transferred to the masses of this country. I want to wish all of us a very fruitful conference, and may the outcome be sent to the Nigerian National Assembly, so that those that require legislations, we will do justice to those ones. But please, finally, I want you to know something. Standing before you is the chairman of the National Assembly, but most importantly, the ambassador of the Nigerian Bar Association in Abuja. I thank you for listening to me, and may God bless all of us.
Please, another round of applause for the President of the Senate of Nigeria. Is he off? It's on. Your Excellency, as you take your seat, we are privileged that you have joined us today and that you have personally recognized yourself as an ambassador of this very noble, the only noble profession anywhere in the world. But we should also let you know that I have the instruction of the Nigerian Bar Association members, both of the inner and outer bar, that request for pro bono service for politicians is rejected. As a matter of fact, we just, the MBA leadership under Mr. Yakubu Chonoko Mekiel, OON, SAN, just in 2023, ensured the review of the remuneration order. And we might have to have another review, particularly for politically exposed clients, so that you all can pay more if you want litigation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, yesterday, the keynote speaker, Professor Okonjo-Iweala, asked a very pertinent question. She asked if we are ready. But it seems that question has already been answered by the female leaders in the country. We now have a Chief Justice of Nigeria, who is a woman. Of the last session that we just had, a very interesting session. Dr. Agada Ilachi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who ensured that we had a very rich faculty in the last session that we had. Thank you so much, Lenel Silk, Dr. Agada Ilachi, for your industry in bringing those very important personalities to join us today. Now, to the next session. This dynamic panel brings together Nigeria's leading female bank managing directors to share their journeys into achieving career success and maintaining relevance in a competitive industry. Their diverse experiences and proven strategies will provide a roadmap for aspiring leaders within the legal profession and beyond. Attendees, delegates today, will gain a wealth of knowledge from these trailblazing leaders, including practical advice and inspiration to navigate their own career path. This session aims to empower female legal practitioners and male legal practitioners to break barriers, pursue leadership roles, and contribute to a more equitable and dynamic professional landscape in Nigeria. In this regard, please make welcome with thunderous applause the Managing Director CEO of FSDH Merchants Bank Limited, Mrs. Bukola Smith, to the podium. Please a round of applause to her. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today. We also have with us the Managing Director and the Chief Executive Officer of Lotus Bank Limited, Mrs. Kafilat Araoye. Please a round of applause for her. We are also privileged to have with us the Managing Director and the Chief Executive Officer of Unity Bank PLC, Mrs. Tomi Shomefun. Please a round of applause for her. And just so to ensure that this panel is a panel that we can easily relate with, we also have a very senior lawyer who happens to be the General Counsel of Chevron Nigeria, Mrs. Ijoma Bassi, with us. Please. She's going to be joining us virtually. And to moderate this very interesting session is a delectable we also have with us, I'm sorry for that interruption. We also have with us the Managing Director of the Chief Executive Officer of the Union Bank of Nigeria Limited PLC, Mrs. Yetunde Oni. Thank you so much. She looks like a lawyer, so I didn't know she was a banker. That was why I almost missed that. Please, you're most welcome, ma'am. Thank you. Like I said, the General Counsel to Chevron Nigeria will be joining us virtually in this session. And to moderate this session is a delectable, brilliant, and beautiful chairperson of the Annual General Conference Planning Committee, Mrs. Oyikansola Badejo Okusoya. Please a round of applause for her. Yeah, I will now yield the floor to the moderator of this very important session. Ms. Oyikansola, please.
I think I'll just sit here. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues, members, ladies and gentlemen. The day is fast spent, so we will go straight into the session. The title of our session, but I was having an interesting conversation with the panelists, and one of them was mentioning that the glass isn't shattered. We didn't fight. We just removed it. So I'd like to ask Mrs. Kafilat Araoye, You say the glass isn't shattered. You just removed it. Can I get another mic, please? You just moved the glass away. Would you like to shed some light on that comment, please? Mrs. Kafila Tarawi.
Hello. Thank you very much, Mrs. Badejo Okusoya. Yes, I did say that. When you say a glass is broken or shattered, it means that there was some force. We did not take a gun. I did it in a way that they were not expecting us to do so. It happened because we removed it with tact, with competence, and with a lot of confidence while doing that. We did it by getting their respect. We did it by ensuring that we at the table.
We still can't hear you, but we'll try and sort it out from this end. Can you manage over 200 branches of MCMB, FCMB nationwide?
To do this today. So yes, I had an interesting journey to the top. And at the top, the first thing we need to understand is that all the women at the top are competent women. Challenges were at my middle management life, as it were, and then had children. At that point in time, there were certain interventions that kept me in my two, knowing that they had gone through the similar experience. I would also say that I had my organizations under supports me in my growth. And the last thing I would say, sponsor, and I hope we can speak about the role of a sponsor later on, as I knew that he had to speak for me when I wasn't available at the table. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Smith. Is Mrs. Ijoma Basi on now? Otherwise, big, strong, reliable. Into the top.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here today. Here I am today. I started my career at the age of 21, and I would say that I started as a copper, and I didn't feel competent. Yet I had a mentor who believed in me, and he called me, and he asked me specifically, yet, but I didn't feel I could do it until that mentor spoke to me business.
Well done. I think this is something that we hear about a lot, not believing enough in competence I can do it. So it's a good message to whether man or woman, if you can do it, just put yourself out there and do it. But I want to be a little bit disruptive. And I'm going to start in the same order that we started. What would you like to see? What would you like to see from this? Remove, not shatter the ceiling, as you said, to remove it and keep it permanently.
Okay, thank you once again. Let me apologize for omitting to acknowledge from the Senate. I would like to first of all state that I'm not a gender-sensitive person, so I don't like tokenism, and I don't want anybody to feel fair environment that gives everybody an opportunity. Now it starts backwards and not encouraging the education of women should be encouraged to do so. Where there are issues around mingling in classrooms, educational level, we need to make law that everybody is educated. When you are kitted, then you can stand firm. Equal opportunity and legislation around it should be Sanusi. He put a law in place that ensured that an average of 40% of representation at the board was meant to be women, minimum % women. Let's just allow a fair chance around education and kitting of women. And lastly, a rule women are also well represented. I'm not sure the Senate is gender sensitive right chance to give women a chance. Keynote, part of what we need is the confidence in the Senate. Give us that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Shomefu.
And I like to think of women-centric issues as being first, you're here with. I would rather ask the Honorable Senate President to encourage women. The legislation will answer this. As a woman, if you prove yourself, you should be recognized. And if there is legislation that would encourage any... Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Bukola.
President, sir. If just looking back at what my colleague mentioned, the former CBN governor putting the policy in place, one of the questions I've asked myself prior to that time, and we saw the number. So I actually think that policies would actually help to drive it. It's not that for some reason they are not being seen. So I believe to ensure that representation increased to 30, and I believe we're at that level now. If that hadn't been done, we might still be at the done. Again, not because they are not competent women, but for some reason they are not being seen. So I think that it has to be driven by help. And it's just because of the way our society is formed. It's a patriarchal society. And we just think in a masculine policy is put in place, like has been done in the banking industry, it would actually help to fast track. It would not happen in...
Mrs. Ijoma Basi.
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you.
Getting to the top, you're general counsel at Chevron, or I had intended to ask rather, what kind of policies would you like to see coming from there, or laws coming from the Senate?
I would say it's a journey, and for me personally, things Mrs. Shomefu said, and even the rest of the panelists, it's about consistency. You don't know, so adopt a growth mindset. How am I growing? How am I becoming a better version of myself? So there's work for the individual, and there's the part to help you become the best version of yourself on a daily basis. So, human, you need to understand how the business makes money. It's okay to read the law to understand, but it's critical. At the end of the day, it's the bottom line. So how does the business make money? But it can be done in a creative way when you can only do that when you understand the business. So business acumen for me is critical for anybody. I think that I'm also an ardent believer that it's not about tokenism. I think it's about equipping the females, I would say, into roles that may traditionally be, you only have bathrooms for just one bathroom for both male and female. It may be, some females may be, if there's something you're trying to learn and there's someone who does it well, then come alongside them and have them.
Points from what you said, again, a common thread running through everyone, competence, and then you've talked about women helping.
Hello? Yes. Okay. I think there's still more room to be more intentional about it. And when I say intentional, can do the job. That sometimes can do the job better than men, I dare say. If you, people like you, in leadership, in top leadership, step in, our intent to present policy sometimes, it's like they're just helping us to take the senior and leadership positions and who are willing.
For all our panelists, so for a number of years. So that suggests already that there's some, to start from you this time. Did you start from the beginning? Yes, you've told us about the fact that you didn't even want to apply for one job, but at some point, what exactly was that point? And then what were the specific steps that you took to actually
Thank you. That's an all-encompassing question. I would say I have my 7 Fs. My 7 Fs that have helped me to get where I am today. The first is family. Family. And my husband is actually my greatest cheerleader. And one of the reasons that has always supported me. And so, women, my parents, of course, my parents were educationists, and they gave me these sponsors, coaches, I've mentioned it earlier, who will be there to support you as you go along and cheer you on. F, food. The third F for you to go along and to climb that leadership journey. You need to be fit. You need to eat well and eat healthy. I have the nation with a resilience, with a strong can-do spirit. You can fix, but it is feedback. I've benefited a lot from feedback from my boss, but it is real because they see you more than you see yourselves. To you. They say, lonely at the top, lonely, lonely, lonely. But when you have friends, the last 7 for me is faith. I am today. So those are my 7 Fs. Family, fix, feedback, fun, in the Almighty God.
That was wonderful. Who knew that the Union Bank MD was also a singer? I'm very familiar with the concept of mentoring, but this sponsorship thing, I think I'd like to hear more about it. How is it from a mentor? If you can just share your experience with having a sponsor.
Thank you for that. So I'll first you, or with you, or speaks to you rather. So a mentor speaks to you. With you, while a sponsor speaks for you. Okay? In my case, and I've also had to do it for other people. So especially don't want to be seen, right? They want to do it, and I really was like that at a point in time in my career. I just wanted all politics was bad. I didn't want to understand that there was good politics in the organization. I just wanted to face my work. But later on, I realized at the table when you're not there. So, like I mentioned, I've had a sponsor. And in particular case, it was actually the CEO of the institution I worked for. Can't do it. So and it was a male. It was a situation where I won't be in the room when they are conversing. So I've also had to do that for some women. Like Yetunde mentioned, sometimes you don't even want to take that role, but a sponsor will say, I know you can do it. I will speak for you when I said, I have seen you do, and I know you can handle. So that is the role of a sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Smith. And you talked about politics, and I'd like to ask you, Ms. Zaraoye, you know, a lot of people feel that the workplace and politics don't go together. Just do your work, and your work will speak for you all the time. Is that really the case?
Is a political setup. Everyone comes to work with an agenda. And if you do not have your own agenda, you will be their agenda. Well, and I'm like, what's the importance of them? You must ensure that you are relevant to them so that they can also actually block you and you won't know, and that is politics. Believe it or not, every interplay of because it's a pyramid in the workplace. It gets to a point, it thins out. Competence becomes a given, politics in the workplace. So let's be mindful about politics need not be people and having emotional intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very well said. Very well said. Now, also at some point, gotten a sponsor. Have someone speaking up for you. Were you aware of the fact that you needed to be
get the corner office? I would recommend that to, being nice will not get you there. Being competent too may not get you there as far as people in our lives that we cannot do without. Sponsorship, when done correctly and frankly, when I said when done correctly and fairly, sponsorship should not just be done for this, recognize that I could do the job and this.
Bassi. Mrs. Bassi, you're back. So, okay. You work in the private for women to thrive in the workplace because they have certain peculiar registers has put in place to assist women on their journey. And then what can you recommend to other organizations competent and so should not be held back by those obligations that they have?
Okay.
I think we're beginning to round up. All of you on this stage now are at the peak of your careers. Completely push the ladder away so that nobody else can climb. At least they don't make it easy or create a level playing field. Of course, I'm not going to ask you whether you're one of them. And you did.
No.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, whether or not you did want to be or need to be, the things that they should, anybody who is competent to pull them up. Can you just give us a tip in that regard?
Thought that there's a big gap in the middle. A lot of women fall off in the middle of, and even men have to be a little bit more supportive. Creating an environment, family, i.e. working from home. It's something that COVID has also taught us is possible. You're competent because you're working hard. You don't show that card, women's card, oh, I have to take the children in the bank. I would plan myself to ensure that when my children are having their sport manager, I was as low as you could be then, but I would have that engagement and I would ask for the work that I had to do out because it was important to me. So we need to know what is important to us. Present, contribute your part, and when it is time for you to be supported. So we are all human. We spend a long time in the office. My space, if I go back to my organization, on getting there, I've seen that there are opportunities to improve time to be at home with their children, but yet not fall off that. Making sure that when they're at that table, you actually point to them and make sure that they talk. A lot of times we women don't like to talk. Analysis paralysis in my mind. Should I not? How will it sound? How will it not sound? And before I say it, the guy next door to me has said it, and the mentors, the sponsors would find you out. Everybody, they will help you, they will support you, and you will thrive. Thank you
very much. So,
thank you. So a few things Somebody has spoken a lot about the family setting. I will just add that you need to have an excellent support. You're still the first primary, so you need to make sure that that gap is in there. And I definitely had one. In the workplace, what are the things that we are doing? And I did a study on this particular issue. And the things, like she mentioned, the gaps we see are at middle management. So we start off in the banking industry at 50-50 male-female. Management, it drops. And it drops to around 25-30 of women narrow up. So what the study, the recommendations I made in work from home. Thank God COVID, what was thought was impossible, COVID has come to show. Find a way to have hybrid.
I cannot overemphasize that. As women, especially, we need to keep abreast of technology, changes in our field, and changes in our environment. I think that is an area where women are particularly lacking. We tend to just rest, especially when you are saddled with raising a family. You tend to ignore continuous learning. But I want to say here that it's never too late to learn. And learning doesn't have to be a particular type of learning, like going back to school. Just keep abreast of what is happening. And there's online learning. I want to emphasize the importance of some of Yetunde's 3 F's. I'll start with friends, family, and the faith. After the ceiling has been removed, family and friends are what we come back to. That is what remains. And I think as women, we sometimes forget. We don't know how to juggle all the balls, and we tend to ignore family and friends. There has to be something to come home to after we have shattered, removed, broken the ceiling, and we come back home. So please pay attention to family, pay attention to friends, especially old friends who may feel left out of our lives as we progress in our careers. Faith cannot be overemphasized. Whatever you believe in is what strengthens you on the journey as you climb the ladder. Those are my 3 final words. Thank you.
So final words from Mrs. Araoye, and then we have just one minor intervention from Bukola again.
Thank you once again, Oyinkan. My final words will not be gender sensitive. It's to both male and female. For the male, let's start life not as males intimidating. And for the female, let's start life, work life, not as female and frightened or very introverted. The first thing in a life is to be prepared like the Boy Scout. Be intentional, have your vision. You must have a personal vision and plan for yourself. You have to do that. I would like to borrow from a book by Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The most important part of that book that struck me, what he said, it's a whitewater world. That means it's a turbulent world. There will be circles of concern and circles of influence. Work hard to reduce your circle of concern and increase your circle of influence. And the only way you can do that is to be proactive. Don't look for excuses. Where there is a will, there is a way. So for as long as you are intentional in resolving the issues that come your way, through learning, through acquiring skills, networking, ensuring you are depositing into people's emotional bank account, you're on the way to winning. The second is to ensure you put first things first. Plan. First things first include putting your family in perspective. Your work life is balanced. You study and you increase the skills that will ensure you get where you are getting. And most importantly, begin with the end in mind. If you don't know where you are going nowhere. So plan and be prepared for the task ahead. At the end of the day, all that has been said here will add value to your life. Once you have sponsors, you may get a mentor to guide you because you can't know it all. You have a lot of confidence. Dress up every day, leave your house, dressed in addition with your confidence so that you are visible at all times. and the rest will be easy. Thank you very much.
Okay, so on the final notes from me, I think that sometimes I would like to speak on 3 points. Be accountable for your actions, be strong on integrity. And the final thing is our resilience. We are resilient people as Nigerians. Going through all that we've gone through is very important. Failures happen. Challenges come. See those failures that you go through and experience and challenges as stepping stones to your success. Do not hide away from failures or successes. Do not see them as things that are, truncating your career. It actually has a way of springboarding you even faster. So take advantage of those challenges and failures that you might experience and see them as a stepping stone to your success. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. Thank you very much for that. So final words from Mrs. Ijoma Basi. I hear we have her back on. Mrs. Ijoma Basi, would you put her back on, please? Yes.
Okay.
Your final words, please. Thank you.
Okay, final words. Yeah, I'm going to start with my reading list. And I listened intently. Apologies. It seems the network is really bad, so I've barely been able to contribute well. But I'll start with saying that listening across the panelists, I have just 3 books I was going to recommend. The first is If You Don't Do Politics, Politics Will Do You. And it really talks about the good side of politics and why you need to know your stakeholders, where the power play is, influence. That's what helps you understand what politics is really all about, no matter where you are. The second, which is my reading book for every woman, is How Women Rise. And it talks about some of the qualities that women have that you don't realize are in your blind spots, like minimizing, and they're different books, so I'll just let you buy the book and read that. And then for everybody, I would say buy the book Triggers, because it doesn't matter how technically sound you are, if you don't hone your soft skills, emotional intelligence, how you're showing up each day, it will get in your way. And you need to take yourself out of your own way so you can make progress. So that for me is a general sort of pointer for everyone. And one more book, I would say Ego is the Enemy. Because as you go on, and as Mrs. Smith said, you really need to keep growing for each season you're in. And more importantly, have the values that are your moral compass as you go through life. They will keep you sure and steady regardless of the season you're in. And finally, have a tribe. The tribe tells you the truth in love. It doesn't matter how high you rise, you need to have a tribe who can call you aside and say, this was good, this might not be so good, work on this. Because all of those things together would help you become the best version of yourself each day. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Help us to become the best version of ourselves. We'd like to thank our sterling panel of leaders in the banking and the oil and gas industry. Time did not permit us to read out their intimidating credentials, but we all know that everything that they've said here today, they've kind of made it look so easy. But we were listening carefully and we heard all the things they didn't say. All the things on the journey that were there, but they made it all the same. And we all have learned, thank you very much, from your experience. We're grateful for your time. And I'll hand over to the MC. I believe the president is coming.
Thank you very much, our wonderful women that have removed the ceilings. You perhaps didn't know that there were forces fighting you. You did it with so much ease. That is why you didn't know that you fought a fight to actually remove the ceilings. But anyhow, whether you removed it, you shattered it, you broke it, you are there, and I say to you, congratulations for doing us proud as women. And let me also say to you that we have women in the legal profession taking over the legal space. Only 3 days ago, the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, my Lord Honorable Justice KMO Kekere Ekun, Justice of the Supreme Court, now acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, has become the second female to occupy that office. And my Lord Honorable Justice Kekere Okun said for me to let you know, first and foremost, to apologize that she is not able to join us both yesterday and today. But then, by the special grace of God, she would be at the handover ceremony on the 29th. So she would come for the inauguration ceremony. So while our bank MDs are here, we will take our short. I would like to present, please bring them up. We have, as an MBA, put together our history. The first time we are codifying the history of the Nigerian Bar Association and some of the advocacy notes that we've done, including a pro bono flyer. But this is not to suggest that we'll be rendering pro bono services to the banks, like the Senate President suggested earlier. So no pro bono for politicians. So we will charge our fees, and we will charge well. Those in support say aye. The ayes have it. Thank you so very much. And yes, I would like to invite the Senate President. Mr. Senate President, please, we would like to have a picture with you. And then I would use the female senior advocates that are here as a point of contact to other women in the profession. Please, the female senior advocates should come up for us to have this photo. Very shortly, we would do the launch of our digital stamp. Nozolo is the chair of Legal Aid South Africa. Thank you very much for coming. Just a while ago, I saw the president of the Commonwealth Lawyers Association, Mr. Peter Maynard. Mr. Peter Maynard, you are welcome. Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together for him. We also have the president of the Ghana Bar. The president of the Ghana Bar, where are you? Please. Thank you so very much for coming. And Mr. Tia, you've been with us since yesterday, is from the South African Bar. Thank you very much. I now hand you over to the MD Law Pavilion.
Please, can I have the video, please?
The Nigerian Bar Association has always been a beacon of quality and integrity in the legal profession. For years, the manual stamp and seal have stood as symbols of authenticity, signifying that every legal document is backed by the expertise of a licensed professional. But times have changed. The manual process of acquiring and applying stamps has become outdated, vulnerable to forgery, and inefficient. The world is digital, and so must we. Introducing the NBA Digital Stamp and Seal with a state-of-the-art verification system, an innovative initiative led by the esteemed YC Maikyao, SAN administration. Powered by cutting-edge blockchain technology, the NBA Digital Stamp and Seal integrates seamlessly with Microsoft Word, allowing you to affix your stamp with just a few clicks. Say goodbye to the hassle of running out of physical stamps. With our user-friendly e-commerce portal, you can purchase digital stamps conveniently and securely. Each digital stamp is unique, tamper-proof, and verifiable, resting on blockchain technology that ensures the highest level of security and trust. And that's not all. You now have access to a legally trained AI for legal drafting in Nigerian jurisprudence, right within Microsoft Word, assisting you with your legal research. our innovative digital stamp verification app, available on both Android and iOS, empowers the public to verify the authenticity of legal documents with a simple smartphone scan. This unprecedented level of transparency and trust is designed to protect the public and bolster confidence in the authenticity of legal documents. This is more than just technology, it's empowerment. It's the freedom to work smarter, protect your practice, and uphold the standards that define our profession. Welcome to a new era where authenticity meets innovation, where every document you draft is secured, verified, and trusted. Activating your NBA digital stamp and seal account. Navigate to the eStamp web portal landing page. Click on the Login button on the page and proceed to input your SCN number, NBA Portal's username and password. Onboarding process. For the first login, you will be directed to an onboarding screen, once annually, where the system checks that you have paid your bar practicing fee. If verified, upload your branch dues receipt and photo ID. Otherwise, ensure to pay your BPF and try again. On successful upload of your branch dues receipt and photo ID, proceed to your dashboard. Purchasing your eStamp. Go to the eStamp web portal, estamp.nigerianbar.org.ng, and log in with your SCN number, NBA email address, and password. Click on the Buy eStamp button on the menu bar or top right corner of the dashboard. Enter the number of stamps you want to purchase, the stamp type, private or public, and click on the Proceed to Make Payment button, after which you will be redirected to a Flutterwave payment page with several payment options.
Distinguished colleagues, please be informed that the breakout sessions will now hold at the TBS, Tafawa Balewa Square. For today, we are done with all sessions in this venue. So you are all advised to please proceed to Tafawa Balewa Square. There are vehicles outside the hall to